1993, and we're in Morgantown, West Virginia, and Mom is going to tell about her family history as she can remember it. Okay, Mom, you're going to tell about maybe start with your dad, who his folks were, or tell something about his dad.
I don't remember anything about my grandparents, too much about them. Only they said that my grandfather was he wouldn't spend a nickel for anything if he just didn't have, I suppose he'd buy food or something like that. But he would take burlap sacks and cut them up and fix them, and he'd wear them on his feet to keep in the wintertime, keep his feet warm. But I don't know too much about him.
Where did they live?
They lived in Liston, West Virginia. And he had a son, John, and two sisters. And Emma and what was the other? Minnie and Emma.
Did you know anything about them?
No, I didn't. I was to their house once when I was a little girl. Mother took us kids. We went on the train up to Jane Lou. They lived in Jane Lou, West Virginia. And Mother took us up there, and they had children. She had children, and I remember playing with them and having such a good time. And in the morning we got up, and Aunt Minnie was up, and she was out in the kitchen, and she baked biscuits for breakfast, and they was the best biscuits I thought I ever ate. They great big biscuits, and that, of course, was in the summertime. I don't know just how old I was. And
John, where did he live?
Well, John lived there too. He lived down along the river, I remember, and he had several children. And one of them was Lydy. They called her Liddy or Lydy. Liddy, maybe it was. Her name might have been Elizabeth, and they called her Liddy. But he had several children, and there were several boys, but I don't remember their names. Don't remember. I was only there once, but I remember.
And you probably haven't had any contact with them?
No, never had. After we growed up, we never. Now, about Margaret Ann was about 5 or 6 years old. Why, Darrell went up to Weston went beyond Weston to go hunting. He went deer hunting with some men. And he took me and Margaret Ann up to Uncle John's. And we stayed all night with Uncle John and his wife. And then Darrell come back. Then the men went on hunting. And then when they come back, on Sunday afternoon, then Darrell picked me and Margaret Ann up and brought us back home. Well, Margaret Ann was born in 41, so that was about 1946 or 45, something like that. But she was 4 or 5 years old.
Do you know the names of any of John's family?
No, only this one girl. That was all, the one that I knew. And she lived there close to her mother and dad.
Okay, and then your mom's parents, tell me about them. Where did they live?
Well, Grandma Rogers, my mother was, Grandma Rogers was a Joseph, and she married a Rogers. And they was born, she was born in Pisgah, West Virginia, as far as I know. And she married she married Grandpap Rogers. Henry, or was his name Henry? I think it was, wasn't it? And they called him Mac. And yeah, and they lived up in Pisgah, and they had 6 children, 6 girls. And of course, when the girls got growed up, why, they wanted to get out of the mountains up there, and so they came to Morgantown, and they lived out at Grove Park. They bought a piece of ground out of Grove Park. There used to be an amusement park out there, and right up the road from the amusement park, where they bought a piece of ground, and then they bought an old house, and it was down by the railroad track down in town, and Grandpap and some of the men tore the house down and hauled it up to Saberton or Grove Park, and they rebuilt it, and that's their home that they had, and they lived there as long then as. So the girls, 6 of them, well, they pitched a tent, and they lived in a tent for a year or so till they got this house built. I don't know how they ever managed in a tent, but that's what they did. They pitched up a tent, and they lived in it until they got their house built. And then, of course, they moved into the house. And
did any of them, were any of them in the Civil War?
no, not that I know of. I don't think so.
Grandma Nellie was the 3rd oldest.
No, she was the 3rd girl.
The 3rd
Aunt
girl.
Lily was the oldest. And then Aunt Ethel. And then Nellie, that was my mother. And then Aunt Opal. And then Aunt Bessie and Aunt Ruth. And they worked in the tin mill, the girls did. They come to Morgantown so they could get jobs. And they worked, some of them worked in the tin mill, and some of them worked in a barley factory. There used to be a barley factory out there at Saberton, and some of them worked in it.
What did they make in that barley factory?
I really don't know. It must have been barley. You know, that is a cereal, isn't it? Because I have pictures of them taken, and they've got hats on, you know, so their hair wouldn't get in it, and they're dressed all in white. So that's, I figured that it was a barley mill that was
Then you said that Nellie worked in the tin mill, and this is where your dad, Alvin Ray Flesher, worked also.
yeah.
And this is possibly where they met?
And it's possible that they might have met there. That might be where they met. And I don't know the year they was married. I don't know.
And what you were talking about, a friend of hers.
Yes, a friend of, when they got married, why, Mother had a real good friend, Catherine Hardman. And Catherine said that she could have cried the day that Mother got married because she knew that she was making a big mistake. That Dad wasn't the person for her. She was too good a woman to get mixed up with him. But anyway, that's the way it happened.
Tell us what you know about your father.
Well, I don't know too much about him. I remember once when I was little, he came, and I don't know where he was taking me to, but Mother let him take me, and we got on a train.
Let's back up just a little bit. Kind of, didn't he after they were married, he drank a lot?
He drank a lot.
And he never was.
Run around. He was just a regular bum. He just bummed around. And you know, in those days there was a lot of bums. A lot of people, they'd get on these box cars and these your trains, and they'd just go. He'd go all over the country. He'd spend his winters out in California where it was warm or someplace.
Did she know when he was leaving? Did he tell her when he was leaving?
I don't know.
When he was coming back?
I don't know whether he ever said or he just went out and never come back and
left her wondering
where he was. And he'd be gone maybe for weeks and days and weeks, and then she was stuck with us kids, maybe 2 or 3 children.
Where did you live then?
Well, I was born in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, and probably that's where it started. And then Aunt Bessie would go down and help Mom get us kids back to Grandma's. And then wherever Opal was born, but I forget where she was born. It's not very far, but I don't know. Daryl, he knows.
And he would just kind of come and go, and then
he would just come and go. And if we ever did see him, it was around the 4th of July he would come. And he came once in the winter time, and he told Mom that he was going to take us kids from her. He was going to take us, and he was going to put us in a Catholic convent, he said. And I know Mom sewed our names in our underwear so that people would know who we was if he'd get a hold of us, you know. And I remember us going up to the neighbors way up the road, up the hollow, and we'd stay up there part of the time. So if he'd come when Mom was working and Grandma couldn't handle him, he was a big man, why, we wouldn't be there. We'd be up the road someplace. And she kept, you know, we just had to do things like that. But he never come to get us, because I know he come one night, and I listened through the keyhole, and he said that he was going, and him and Mother was in the room, was sitting there talking, and I heard him tell Mom that he was going to take us kids away from her. But he didn't have no place to take us or anything. He was just talking. And if he would come, once in a while, he'd give Mom $10. That'd be $3 for each one of us. And once he come when we was at Aunt Bessie's for this Christmas, when we was at Aunt Bessie's, he'd come. And Aunt Bessie, of course, wouldn't let him. He wouldn't come in her house. And Floyd, I think, went out and talked to him, and he gave Floyd $10 for us, the 3 of us. And I know we bought a pair of, when they wore those Arctics, you know, those shoes that come up here and they had clamps come across, you know.
Oh, overshoes.
Yeah, they was like overshoes. And I know that's what Mom bought for us, all 3 of us, a pair of them to wear to school.